a mystery or rewrite history.
Ducktales. Just hearing the first line will reintroduce a flood of suppressed memories back into your brain. Despite going for a good 12 years without watching this show, I still found that damn tune pop up in my head on a weekly basis. If you're between the ages of about 20 to 30, chances are this is one of the first Disney cartoons that you watched. In fact, it was Disney's second big budget TV show right after their success with Gummy Bears. And before Batman and The Simpsons appeared and blew away our expectations about what cartoons could do, this show set a high precedent that all future afternoon cartoons had to follow. The show centers around Scrooge McDuck, one of the greatest business characters in all of fiction. He was created by the late Carl Barks and first appeared as an antagonist in an Uncle Donald comic issue entitled Christmas on Bear Mountain. He was later shown to be an adventurer and is considered to be one of the main inspirations for Indiana Jones. DuckTales is the closest thing that Scrooge will ever get to his own show, filled with adventures, crazy characters, and as it went on, a growing cast. The whole series is too big to just conveniently fit into one review, so instead, I thought I'd just analyze the pilot.
Never mind! You guys just get the plane fixed!
We are introduced to Scrooge talking about how he loves money. Now as a kid, we can kind of pass this off as exposition, but as adults, you have to wonder, who is this guy talking to?
There's only one thing better than owning a vault full of cold, hard cash, and that's swimming in it. I love to dive around in it like a porpoise, and burrow through it like a gopher, and toss it up and let it hit me on the head.
At this point, if you're anything like me, you're probably thinking that Scrooge isn't so much of a duck as he is a loon. We see a humorous scene with Scrooge walking down the street being a cheap bastard.
Would you care for a sample, Mr. McDuck?
No!
They're free!
Can I have more than one?
Of course. Take as many as you...
Be back tomorrow!
Scrooge's use of cheese becomes a running gag for the remainder of this episode.
Taxi! Ugh! Taxi!
Remember I said that this wasn't really Scrooge's show? It's actually Scrooge's and his nephew's show. Donald Duck, easily the most famous character in the series, is barely in the series at all. He pops up about once every 20 episodes or so. Even in Scrooge's own comics, Donald is a major character, but apparently producers thought his presence would take away from the focus on Scrooge, and that his voice would annoy the people if they heard it regularly. This scene also introduces us to the nephews, the triplets Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who I guess are just so badly behaved that after their parents left them with Donald, Donald would rather join the Foreign Legion instead of hanging out with them. So they get shuffled off to Scrooge. Who knew raising triplets would be so much work? Also, how bad are their parents? We don't see them ever in any medium. They'd better be in jail or dead, because there's really no excuse to spend over half a century of existence and never being seen with your kids. So, the boys get sent to Scrooge's mansion, where they're introduced to another series regular, Duckworth. Alfred he is not. Heck, he's not even Jarvis. Let's look at his initial conversation with the boys.
I have something for you.
If those are more cheese samples, we're gonna riot!
Pray, do not get your knickers in a proverbial twist. It's simply a letter from your Uncle Donald.
Let me have it! Say, where is he?
I'm surprised the Urtsons know how to read.
What an asshole. So, cut to Scrooge's most famous enemies, the Beagle Boys, who are treated as bargain basement stormtroopers in this incarnation. And since their guards are so used to being part of the revolving door program that Arkham Asylum has, the cop gives them an unwrapped present, hoping that it's chocolate.
Your disposition. Oh boy!
Turns out, it's a bomb. Scrooge then shows what a bastard he is by attacking solicitors. This is where the Junior Woodchuck guidebook, the Deus Ex Machina of all exposition, is introduced. Also, the boys knock over a model ship. The Beagles escape and meet up with a mysterious figure known as El Capitan, who says that he wants the ship. It turns out that the ship is a map to treasure. Long story short, the Beagle Boys get the ship, but the nephews take it back and a chase ensues into a candy factory. Predictable hijinks ensue, and... oh god. A pie to the face and a trapdoor. They're not even trying. The second episode... Oh, the pilot's actually 5 episodes long. Well, the second episode starts right where the first one left off, and we're introduced to Gromgold, Scrooge's evil rival, who is a lot like Scrooge, just without the positive attributes. And like all good villains back in the day, Gromgold was always coming in second place.
It will be the filthiest, richest duck in the world! I'm gaining on you, Scrooge!
He teams up with El Capitan to get an imprint of the model ship map thing. Meanwhile, the pre-Da Vinci boys are immediately giving Tom Hanks a run for their money. Watch how quickly they solve this problem.
So? Well, if this name doesn't mean anything, then it must be a code. Oh, like the letter A equals a 1. Right. Then the name is really numbers. Double right. Like latitude and longitude. Triple right. And they lead us to the code. We found the code.
If these three knew the Da Vinci Code, there would be no Da Vinci Code. Anyways, Gromgold shows up and buys Scrooge's factory from him. He also makes a bet that by the end of the episode, he'll have more money than Scrooge. The loser of this bet has to eat their own hat. Due to this development, Scrooge gets his nephews to tell him that the treasure is in the country of Wrongway. You know, Wrongway, the country that's biggest trading partner is Liberia. As soon as Scrooge arrives, the countrymen leave, but assuming that they're leaving just to avoid the stupid American tourists that just showed up, the ducks move on. Turns out, the locals were leaving because it was monsoon season. Following the clues on the ship map leaves the ducks not to the ocean, but the desert, where they come across a hidden cave that reveals the boat.
There's gold in them there hulls.
It's here that the 3 friggin' Mary Sues, Gary Stews, Gary Hughes, Doos and Loos. Anyways, they melt down the gold and fix the hull of the treasure boat, and then they sail it out of the desert, which, as a kid, was friggin' awesome, but as an adult I find stupid as hell, and still friggin' awesome.
Hurry, lads, get me a cannonball.
Also, that cannonball has the power of 3 World War II era bombs.
We may need it again. I'll have my gold home in no time.
Correction! My gold!
Wait, what the hell? Where did those 2 come from? Were they hiding on the boat the entire time it was being fixed? So after setting the heroes adrift, the evil guys turn on each other because the evil can never win due to the evil versus evil fight.
Well, it looks like I won the bet, Flintheart.
And Scrooge wins the bet because at the end of the day, he had 1 more gold coin. This is probably my second favorite episode of the pilot, because its animation is better than the first part. It introduces Scrooge's main rival, and unlike every cartoon after Batman, it's not afraid to use guns and real-world weapons to escalate the situation. At the end, it also shows that Scrooge is willing to help those that need it, even if it makes his life harder, and it also shows that Gromgold is humble enough to accept help from a person that he hates the most. And it sets up their relationship well for the rest of the series. I personally like to think that Steve Jobs and Bill Gates have this type of relationship going. Okay, with most of the show's main villains being introduced already, the 3rd episode is made to introduce the rest of the show's regulars for the 1st season. We start off with introducing the boy's nanny, Mrs. Beakley, and her niece, Webby. Now these 2 characters get a lot of hate, and it's really easy to see why. But they're not in this episode that much, so we'll return to them later. Enter Gyro Gearloose, the crazy inventor that all cartoon adventure stories seem to have.
An airship, huh? Well, let me think about that a minute. The problem is landing this plane. It's got to be able to fasten to rock face. Eureka! I've got it!
Will the ship take very long to build?
Yep, it's a toughie, Mr. McDuck. You'll have to wait till after lunch.
MacGyver, eat your heart out.
Look at all these gadgets. Who am I going to get to fly this monstrosity?
Well, there is one pilot capable enough to handle this new aircraft.
Oh, no. Not.
Lunchpad McQuack.
Enter Launchpad McQuack, the resident pilot who has one of the most epic introductions ever seen in a Disney cartoon.
You don't have a chance!
Launchpad McQuack bail out? Never! Parachutes make me airsick!
Gyro, this guy's in big trouble.
You know, he really wasn't a bad guy. A bad pilot, yes, but not a bad guy.
Gyro, look!
Big rubble? No trouble. Gyro tells me you need a pilot for an experimental plane.
What I need is my head examined.
Don't worry, Mr. McD. If it's got wings, I can crash it.
I hope my medical insurance is paid up.
Hell yes. That is how you introduce the world to a new character. The rest of this episode is about Scrooge and Launchpad teaming up with Donald Duck as they try and find a treasure map that's up in the Andes. This episode is one of the more interesting in the series because the nephews do nothing in it. They have about a minute of screen time and then disappear. What you get from their absence is a more high-stakes feeling adventure, since the villains don't have to be toned down for them to deal with, and their Mary Sue-isms won't create solutions or exposition after only 3 seconds of thought.
I can't watch.
Me neither.
Behold, as our Father the Sun looks down upon his children and blesses his golden coin once more.
This episode also has more subtext than most, since it deals with a man who uses a phony religion to control an underdeveloped civilization. Scrooge seems upset by this, but uses similar tactics to get what he wants, and is also willing to leave the place in the condition that he found it in, with the tyrant in charge.
A deal is a deal.
Behold, children of the sun, I am now the only true priest.
See you soon, lads.
The ending of this episode is awesome too. Scrooge trades the gold coin he got last episode, and he gets half a treasure map for it. He then jumps out of his plane into the middle of the ocean alone, and sails towards the end of the earth. Damn, that's an effective ending.